Judy?
See you.
Judy and Liz's last meeting. I'd like to thank them for their service. Been a pleasure serving with the both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're going to be missed. Night like that. Night your wife's not always.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We'll do the flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda tonight is interviews. Bonnie, your intention was to not do anything with the remainder of this.
I prefer to do the
three-year seat. Okay. That was one letter of interest we have, and we have a second letter of interest from Ralph Fogg. Ralph, do you want to come up and sit?
Well, I guess that's protocol. They want to follow it.
Okay.
You wrote the letter.
Boys, this seat the hot one?
So you're interested in filling the one-year position.
I am.
Do you want to give us an idea of, why you're interested? Or?
Well, I thought of running 2 years ago, and being involved in the town aspect of everything, I realized some of the decisions I made at that point would take me away from other things that I was still wanting to do. This year I thought about it again. I saw some candidates step forward that I thought were very able to come forward and serve on the board, and not expecting a vacancy. I thought the board would have a good composition at that time. I look at the current board. I feel as though I could work well with everybody, and I look at the two candidates coming in. I think I can work well with them. Have a little bit of experience as far as dealing on boards and committees, and I would hope to come in and work together and do something positive for the school system and the kids in it.
Does anyone have any questions?
I think my only question would be, how do you feel, do you feel it would be a conflict of interest, or how do you feel about making decisions where your wife works here at the school? I don't know how you would feel about that, or how comfortable or uncomfortable you would be. And
I definitely think there would be a conflict of interest if I was addressing things like her salary.
Mm-hmm.
I think there would be a conflict of interest if I was trying to, I would want to always be part of the conversation no matter what the issue was.
Right.
But if I couldn't stand back and abstain from a vote, I think I'd be acting in a way that would fly in the face of the idea of conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I would want to be part of the conversation. My child, is here in school.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the whole idea of not only thinking of my child, but her classmates and stuff like that. And her classmates, of course, have 5 more years to go. So if I only sit here for a year and can make a positive difference, that's what I want to do. Specifically for my wife or my child. I would abstain from votes on those issues, but I would want to be a part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess as long, if you feel that you can comfortably do that, because that sometimes can be hard to do.
Well, I've seen in the past where similar instances have happened, mm-hmm. and I believe that the people then did the best they could to remain free of that conflict. So I know it's possible that people can act as board members without,
Mhm.
you know, looking out for themselves at all times, or any time. You know, they can actually step back and stay away from acting out on their own best interest.
Right.
So, I think I would hope to be one of those people. And if I was found not to be one of those people, I would hope that anybody observing me being one of those people would step forward immediately and kind of kick me down, because I think it's important to know your place.
Oh, yeah.
I
Pardon me?
don't think that'll be a problem.
Steve, do you have any questions?
Well, one comes to mind. You're now serving on the budget committee,
Yeah, I am.
and you can't be on the school board and on the budget committee at the same time. What would,
Well,
Yes, you can.
I would like to,
Well-
you know, I mean, if I was appointed
what?
and sat, I think the next board would be the ones deciding who would be their representative to the budget committee. You know, I would ask for that privilege. I don't know if I would deserve it any more than anybody else on the school board would at the time, but I've been there now for 5 years. Haven't attended every meeting. My very first year, I was voting to reduce things regarding the Board of Assessors, and sitting on the Board of Assessors, I voted to try to, you know, reduce a line on the assessing firm's contract. So I really should have abstained from the vote, wasn't aware of the whole process, but I learned that year, and last year I had actually acted on made a motion on an issue at the school level, and was promptly reminded that had to do with the paraprofessionals. So I withdrew my motion and apologized and saw where I probably shouldn't have made that motion.
Well,
So-
it's just that there's no guarantee that by coming on the school board that you would be appointed as the school board's representative on the budget committee.
I understand that, and, you know, I guess the chips will fall where they fall. You know, I think I deal pretty well with rolling with the donut, I guess. I don't know.
How would you separate the two, though, being the board rep and also serving on the budget committee?
I would
How
put,
would you-
as far as the budget committee representative of the school board.
Right, and also serving, because you would continue
No.
serving on the budget
No,
committee.
you
No.
can't.
Can't do
You
both.
can't do
Right,
that.
okay, so
That's
you
all
would be choosing this over the budget.
my question.
I would be choosing the 1 year at the, you know, I have 1 year before my term expires at the budget committee.
Okay.
I would forego that, you know, I would tell the town that they would need to replace me. I think they would still have to replace me even if I wasn't the school board representative to the budget committee.
Right.
So
Okay.
that'd be, I mean, that's been my conflict for a number of years. I've wanted to stay on the budget committee, so whatever happens, happens. Hi, Liz.
Was he one of your students?
Yes, he was.
I was the best student ever. Right? Wasn't I always the
Kind
angel?
of like a, I guess I can't say it in
A
public.
bad penny?
I'm amazed at the progress you've made in your life.
Well, thank you. And I'm trying to stay out of the Congress, you know, so that I keep progressing forward.
I don't have any questions.
I am going to allow Bonnie or Bob, if they have any questions. They would be the ones serving with Ralph if we were to appoint him. So do you have any?
The question that I just had was the same thing Steve asked. I didn't know if he could be on both the school board and the budget committee. So he answered my question.
Bonnie, any?
I don't. You know, I think that it's good to have a variety of people and a variety of different areas, and it'll be what it is, and we'll make it work. It's all good.
Okay.
There's
I'm
gonna
all
be,
set.
Anything else? Do you have anything else you want to add?
I'm hoping there's other letters of interest there.
There isn't.
Oh.
You're hoping there is?
Well, I mean, just because I think more people should be getting involved in this.
Yeah.
So do we.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we appoint Ralph Fogg for the interim position upon your opening on the school board.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ralph, you want to come back?
Stand up.
Well, I guess don't I need to get sworn in and all that good stuff?
Yeah.
Deb can swear you in.
Oh my goodness, that fast?
Asking
Quick,
for
grab him in a
some
Do we have the camera
minutes.
going for the oath?
Is it the one without?
Oh, he's already picking the oath he wants to say.
Neither of them say.
You sure about this?
Well,
They're
there's,
not two separate oaths.
There's only one oath.
There's
no,
only
there-
one
no,
oath.
there's two versions of the oath, and I have to tell you, I don't know, it might make a difference with the nomination and all. I'm not a religious kind of guy. I religiously go to work and religiously, for me to say, so help me God, I would kind of be a hypocrite on that issue. So,
It's up to you guys. This is the state's oath.
I did swear an oath with the Board of Assessors, which was to the best of my abilities, so. But, I'll just, if I can forego the last 4 words, then I'll swear what we have. I don't know if,
I don't know if I wouldn't mess with the oath with the state, for the state. I don't know how that works, so Deb, you're more versed in that than we are. I am.
I wouldn't have a problem with those 4 words.
No. Is it gonna be all right? So,
I think,
So help me God.
I think,
if it's
Works
the,
to open it.
if it's the state oath, I just don't.
it's only a problem if somebody chooses to make it a problem.
Okay.
And typically, if there's a problem, and I'm not an attorney, please, let me say this, but typically, if the intent is clear and the intent is accepted, then there's some deference. If it's clear what the intent of the person is, and then clear the intent of the board, that it's accepted. But, without calling an attorney, you can always do, here's my suggestion. Why don't we swear Ralph in, abstain on motions, but participate so that you're learning, getting familiar,
Yeah.
and then we can confirm whether or not the oath that he took was acceptable, and if it's not, then he can cross that bridge.
Okay.
stand up and
We're going to stand up.
my hand on my heart.
And just raise your right hand.
Okay.
But you don't have to do it yet.
All right.
To the town of Wakefield, whereas there is a vacancy in the office of school board member of said town, and whereas we, the subscribers, meaning the school board, have confidence in your ability and integrity to perform the duties of said office, we do hereby appoint you as school board member of the town of Wakefield. And upon your taking the oath of office and having this appointment and certificate of said oath of office recorded by the school district clerk, you shall have the powers, perform the duties, and be subject to the liabilities of such office until March 2014. Do you accept these?
I do accept the.
Then, raise your hand and say after me. I, Ralph Fogg,
I, Ralph Gregory Fogg,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and perform
and perform
all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Wakefield School Board,
as a member of the Wakefield School Board,
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeably and to the rules and regulations of the Constitution
agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution
and the
laws
laws.
of the state of New Hampshire. So help me all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now you can sit down.
I knew I could find a replacement.
Okay, was there any
It's up to you, really. It should be up to you.
questions on the manifest? Is there a motion on the manifest?
I'll make a motion to approve the manifest.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes of the last meeting.
Hold on.
Skipping visitors?
Oh, yeah, I guess I can't do that, can I? Any public comment?
Vivian made the motion to accept the manifest. Liz offered the second?
Yes.
It's 3-0. Public comment? No? Minutes of the last meeting. Page 1. Page 2.
Yeah.
First line.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that one out.
I don't understand what it's saying. You mean of the areas? My first.
Explore the various options. Yeah, I think you just need to put an of in there.
Yes. About 15 lines from the bottom. Mrs. Nason expressed her frustration at the apparent need for the board to press before cafe service delivers. I don't know what that's about.
She was talking about having to continually ask cafe services.
Well, for the board to press cafe services for delivery on its commitments?
What I was trying to say was that the board had to keep after cafe services
So
to
if you-
honor
if
its
you press-
commitments,
If you press cafe services,
to deliver on
Yeah.
its commitments.
right. And about 8 lines down, several individuals appear to have balance in excess, is that balances?
Balances.
Okay.
Let me find the line. Yep.
Page 3.
Yeah, the 1, 2, 3, 5th line, this is the Olympia was concerned about going, the effect going, about, I don't know what it means. About,
The effect.
Going.
I think it's about, was concerned about the effect of going off program.
so we can leave one of the goings off.
Yeah, agree to move one of them. Concerned about the effect of going off.
Okay. And then midway down the page where it says, rather, if when it is spent is would act. I don't know what that means.
Okay, let's see here.
Maybe it would act?
It
It
would
would
act.
act.
Yes.
You know, the school which would own the equipment, wouldn't it be?
Yes.
Page 4. All set on 4. On page 5.
About 10 lines down, Mrs. Nason wondered if the purpose for the 1,000 left in?
$1,000 left, yes, left in the regular ed new furniture.
And fixture line.
Yes.
Needs to be added as well.
Page 6. Down under G, where we have the RSA reference 66961,
Mhm.
it should just be 669.
Oh, okay,
You can get
Take
rid
out
of
the 6-1.
6-1 and the 3.
okay.
Page 7.
About 10 lines up from the bottom. Suggesting the chairman sign the minutes to be sealed after N, maybe any.
It should be corrections, plural then.
Any corrections?
And the future boards, be careful about the sealing process. Suggesting the chairman sign the minutes to be sealed,
After any correction.
any correction.
Plural correction.
Page 8. Does anyone have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Move as amended.
Before we do that, I'm not sure what item E is under the RSA.
Oh,
My notes don't go up, that don't have that many letters in them.
what was that?
Maybe E.
I'm just trying to think what was on the agenda.
Last week's agenda's right here. I mean, last agenda's right
If it's adversely affect the reputation, you can take it off as resource center minutes. because you
Is
quote
it
that.
security?
That's B,
No.
not
Security is G.
Edgar.
Is B only a numerical listing? Because there's
No. Did I misunderstand it? Should it be B and I heard E?
E is consideration or negotiation of pending claims or litigation.
That would be correct.
Pending claims or litigation?
Yep.
Thank you.
A motion on the minutes?
Motion to approve is amended.
And a
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone have any changes to the non-public?
No.
I don't-
Liz, do you have anything in the?
No, I don't.
Okay, can we approve those?
Motion to approve, non-public.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business residency forms. Andrew told me just before the meeting, there's 59 outstanding residency forms for Spalding at this moment.
So we got in between 25 and 30 since the last board meeting.
Right, so we had 90, didn't
Not
we?
95 or something. I don't know
It's
what you
50
mean.
That was
it's
90,
59 right
yeah.
now.
59?
So there's progress.
31.
My office and Mr. Hopkins' office are working to get a date that we can pull together and identify other options to pull in more. So that's in the works. So we continue to work on it. I think given the fact that we got in as many as we did in the last 2 weeks, I'm inclined to see if we can do the same in the next 2 weeks and get the number down to a moderate amount of a couple dozen before we ask the truant officer to try to chase these people down. And I don't know whether we'll get that many, but even if we got another 15 or 20 in the next 2 weeks, it would make that job a lot more manageable than to have 50.
Didn't we talk about having phone calls made from here as well?
Yeah,
Last
we
meeting?
yeah,
Have
we did.
done that?
No, not yet. At the end of the discussion, I asked your leave to give us a couple more weeks
Oh, okay.
using the process we were using to see if we could make progress. And that that seems to have helped.
Yeah. We have 31 more than we had.
Yeah, so.
Just so that I know
I'm sorry.
what all is being talked about, the residency form is something that's sent home with the kids, or
No,
to
it's
the
mailed.
every year.
No, it's mailed.
It's how we
Mailed.
pay, we won't pay the Spalding tuition until we receive a residency form from each one of the students.
Okay, so it's
So we're
filled out by
still-
the student or by the
The
parent?
parents,
Parent.
and we're still waiting for
Okay.
59 at this point, and this is March, so.
In our last meeting, we were at 90. That was still outstanding. So in the last 2 weeks, we had 31 came in.
We don't
Just
pay-
for the high school kids?
Right.
Yes.
But we're not
Yeah.
paying the tuition on
We
anyone
don't
we
pay
haven't
the
received
tuition.
a
without
residency
that.
form on. So that tuition is outstanding.
It's a lot of money.
Sounds like a
So
movie.
if you don't have proof that someone is a resident of the town, and you don't pay because that, 59 students times nearly, what, $12,000?
Yeah, it's 11.4, right?
11,800.
So if you can prove that the
11.4,
child's going
right?
to the school, but you can't prove where they're living,
Right. So whether or not we're
You
responsible
don't
for paying
pay, or-
attention.
We don't
We
pay
need a
Yeah.
residency
without
form.
that form signed.
If we don't know they're from Wakefield, we don't pay. What Rochester does with them is up to them. We pay for the students we know about. If there are students attending Spalding that they don't have information about where they live, then that's their challenge. Our challenge is to identify every student from Wakefield and pay accordingly.
okay. Thank you.
I just think we're getting too late in the year at this point. I think we need to start doing something. How many are we waiting for at Paul's school?
I'm not sure what we have out, Judy, I've not looked.
I think we should concentrate on the Spalding ones, and I think that we should start getting the phone calls made and the truant officer working on it.
Well, why don't we,
I don't wanna wait
why don't
another
we
2 weeks.
target any families that we think have multiple students and make those the highest priority? It's not unlikely that we have families that have 2 students going to Spalding, and that way we can be more efficient with our calls and our truant officer effort if we focus on multi-student families.
Last
first.
year, I think we had about 50 when we sent him out to take care of it, so I don't
Oh,
think
okay.
that 59 is unreasonable.
But I think we also should be looking at the Paul school, the ones that we haven't received from Paul school also.
You'll have an answer for that in the next meeting, Steve.
All right, thank you.
We can do that. I mean, it's late. We shouldn't have this many left at this time of the year. There's no question about it.
Well, I would think, Spalding would have a problem with it. That's all tuition that they're not getting. And they've been educating
they do.
students since
Well,
September.
the other thing that worries me, I think our cutoff date is April 1st, and anyone after that, it's not prorated. So if we're finding kids that maybe left in January or whatever, if we wait till after April 1st, those bills aren't prorated.
Oh,
So we've got a month to get this straightened out. I don't
Okay.
think we can wait.
I think based on that, we probably should just get moving on the calls.
Okay.
Well, maybe both, as Jay was suggesting, that maybe they continue, but maybe also
We should too.
they and the truant officer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Do you need a
Yeah.
motion for that?
No. It's just a matter of time, and we were going to do it anyway. We'll just start it right away.
Next item is website. I noticed the SAU website, the new one is up, but there's really nothing on it. There's no minutes, there's no agendas,
Yeah.
policies aren't up.
There's old information.
Yeah,
Well,
what's that?
the old information we should be correcting, but the new is that the template is up, and now we've got to populate it. But the way we want to do that is we want to have the person who generates the document put it up, so we don't have multiple people having to have their hands on it and making extra work. So the next step is to train the people like Kathy Vigu. When the minutes come in from Deb and they've been approved and finalized by Deb, then it comes to Kathy's desk. It doesn't make sense to Kathy to send it to Kathy Bordeaux to put up. And when policies are done, they end up on Kathy Bordeaux's desk for her to be trained to put the policies right up. So the step we're on is that we think we've got the template set, and now we've got to train the individual people that have stuff to put up so that we can start populating the site. And that should, we met on it right before February vacation and went over the template, so it's a matter of time before that goes up. I know they didn't have access to our folks over February vacation because they weren't here. So I don't know if there was any training that happened here this week, but I'll put back on my agenda to see if that's been scheduled yet. That's the next step.
So the corrections of the information's on there?
And anything that you want to have corrected, you can send it to me and I'll make sure it gets to the right person.
Thank you.
And yeah, we're finding some.
And how long before the Paul School websites?
I would say it's imminent. I would be surprised if it's not at least up by the next board meeting, but without having Back Bay here to ask the specific timeline, I will encourage them to have it up for the next board meeting.
Okay. Support staff handbook?
Has sent?
I'm sorry.
Could I just ask, the name of that website is Milton/Wakefield
SAU64.org.
SAU64, no
.org.
slashes?
No.
.org. Okay, thank you.
And the Paul School one, what's that one under?
Wakefield K.
12.nh.us.
.nh.us.
US.
You
But if
can
you
get
go
to that
there-
one off of the SAU one.
Well, if
Okay.
you just point out that if you go to the SAU website, to get to our website, it brings you to what will look like our new template when it's put up. So you have to click on the Paul School in the middle of the page in order to get to our current website that is up and current.
Okay.
So just a little bit of a process while we're going through this transition.
Yeah. So the support staff handbook, I sent a draft out. I think I got all of Liz's suggestions. Thank you for getting them to me. What I did was restructure it. The existing handbook has a lot of headings, and yet the headings were not organized functionally. So what I did in the new draft was to provide the first section is for prospective employees. What's the hiring process like? What are the documentation that's required before a person gets hired? And then the next section refers to employees, and then the final section refers to what is the third section? What is that? The third section is the referral forms, all the paperwork and forms that are needed for different purposes. So my goal is to make this more functional for employees, as well as to make grammatical and typo improvements.
I just got it yesterday. I didn't really have a lot
Yeah,
of
just
time
got
to
it.
go
Me
over it,
neither.
so do you want to put that on the next agenda for approval?
Yeah.
Is that,
I reviewed about the first 12 pages, that's all I had time to do.
okay.
It looked okay.
Do they look okay?
Ralph,
Okay.
if you want to give me an email, I'll forward it to you,
Yep.
so you can review it for the next board meeting.
RalphFogg@yahoo.com.
I didn't expect you to throw it out after.
Well, because I remembered it,
Go ahead, Ralph.
@yahoo.com.
Okay.
And you'll make sure it's in the next packet for
I'll
the
forward
It will be in the
the
next
new board,
packet.
new board
Yeah.
members?
and all the minutes and
Yes.
everything.
Thank
so
you.
The final
have it ready.
version?
Well, the only things that are not in the version that I sent out to you, Jerry sent to me under separate cover, which is the current floor plan. We're putting in next year's calendar because we're so late in this year, going ahead and putting next year in, and the current staff list. Those existed in the Paul School, so he sent them to me. We'll insert them, and then the new one that comes out will have those pages in as well. So it should be the final version.
Is it easy if we just photocopy that?
No dots, no period.
We're going to have plenty of stuff to send to Ralph in the very near future, so we'll make sure you get
Is
it.
it easier that I pick it up or anything like that? Would it be easier? I mean, I'm not,
They normally mail them on Thursday, so you'd receive them
The
probably.
packets.
Okay,
It has everything in it.
okay.
Don't they usually go out Friday?
Friday. Yeah.
Sometimes she gets them out Thursday afternoon, if the mail hasn't come yet, by the time she gets them on Thursday or Friday. You can look for them either Saturday or Monday in your box.
Okay.
And it has to go down with his policy book and stuff.
Yeah, so just go to the SAU to get all that.
Jay, do you have the policy book for him or anything you can pick up?
I don't have it at the moment.
The SAU prepares all that stuff for
Okay.
new board members, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole process when there are new board members of giving them all the information and giving them information about the new board member training that's available. There's,
Yeah, it'll be in April.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just make sure it's done immediately, because there was a problem
We
last
had a
year
problem
where
last
board
year.
members did not receive.
all right,
We both showed up and we weren't on the list,
okay.
so that's why I just suggested that.
No, I'm
Yeah.
talking about your policy books and all
Law
that.
books.
Those, the SAU should get those.
Right away.
We
Prepared.
did 2 more, so we'll have 3 total, so they probably should be working on those.
And there's actually a policy that says what they're supposed to get. They're supposed to get the last year's minutes, they're supposed to get the collective bargaining agreements, the policy books, a law book.
Well,
The
what-
law book, though, changed last year. Remember that we were short the law books and they gave us the CDs? Remember last year, we only had one. I gave you one. And then we were.
But
they were
there's a
short.
new one, new law book now, I believe.
Well, there's a new law book every year.
Well, to be
Yeah.
quite honest with you, the law book changes so fast, you're better off to go on the,
I was given
on
a
the
CD,
website and get
So
them, so they're up to date, any
it's much
laws you're
easier
looking
because
at.
it updates and you just have the CD instead of.
So I'm noting to check the policy, and and ideally, we should have a lot of this stuff on the website, and it may well be that somebody, if we communicate with them, would prefer to access material on the website than to have a huge book. But if we haven't got it on the website, then we need to print it and distribute it, so that'll be more motivation to get the website out.
Good thought process.
Correspondence, the only thing I received this week was a flyer from the School Boards Association for the orientation, and I gave it to Bonnie. I don't know if anybody else got any, but
Yeah,
we'll
I
need
do.
to share that with, you got them? With Bob and Ralph as
Ralph.
well.
I
Yeah,
think
that's-
if any of the school board members prior to that mailing received the one about applications for seniors in high school looking for scholarships, did you receive that?
Yes,
I made copies of that for, in case you didn't get it, so I have
I
those.
didn't get it.
Well, I need another copy. I had the one, but I need another one.
Okay, the School Board Association has scholarships for children, stepchildren, or grandchildren of school board members. So I'll just hand this around. If it doesn't apply to anyone, then please pass it on to members of the audience that might have an interest, and if we don't have enough for everybody that needs them, we'll get more copies out.
Did you just say that these scholarships are for children and grandchildren of school board members?
Yes, they are.
It's for the school board, it's from the School Board Association.
Pardon me.
Okay. But no discrimination involved, right?
The School Board
Well, that's-
Association
It's their
chooses it,
scholarship.
it's their
They-
Special
scholarship.
award.
Okay. Have you ever seen this?
Judy, is there another?
They come out every year.
Red sticker right there.
I'm going to use
Judy, I
my
got
Andrew as my
correspondence today.
sidekick.
All right.
Up at county, they're having a seminar on March 22nd. An invitation to learn about wood pellet heating options for large facilities, town, schools, businesses, churches, nonprofits. So where this had been discussed previously, I don't know if anybody here would be interested in going up. I don't know if you
Where's
want.
that?
Up at the county nursing home,
Okay.
Are
March 22nd at 9:15.
you going to go to that, Steve?
Yeah, I figured I would go. I don't know if any, Bob
I
wants
think
to go.
Bob would be an appropriate
I know
person for me to check with to see if he
Bob
can
was the
go.
one that tried to bring it
That's
to our
something Ralph would
attention
be
before, but
interested
if anybody's interested,
Bob?
it's a large
I'd go.
facility.
Yeah, I'd go up with you.
When we have a break, can we get some copies so that we can?
We just gotta, they're asking for RSVP to tell, to call and tell how many people are gonna be attending.
We have RSVP for whoever's going to go first.
The number's right there. If someone wants to figure it out, maybe just make one phone call or,
Jerry will do that.
and
I'll take that, mate.
add me and add one for me, Jerry.
Not that one.
Good.
I have something that's not on the
What
agenda.
is our region in terms of this application? Is it southeast or lakes?
We are southeast.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
The scholarship brought up a thought, a question I had. It's not on the agenda, so you'll just have to bear with me. Bonnie, I'm hoping you can answer this question. Where you're the treasurer for the money in the PTA funds, are they still going to be able to do the scholarship this year, or they can't do that because it's not active?
We're still an active branch, but within the next month, our tax season comes, and I've been asked if no one has stepped forward to go to the state and relinquish all the funds to the state PTA. And there's not enough funds left in, so without it being active, there will not be funds for scholarship anymore.
All right, so I guess I'm wondering if maybe the school board should do one this year to replace that.
Okay.
It was $500, right?
It was.
Can we just make a motion to do that?
And if you're interested in doing one, you have to kind of like set up the format and then contact you. What we always did is we contacted Kingswood, Brewster, and Spalding, because that's where the children in our area went, and they all had equal options to apply.
I'm just thinking that this particular scholarship made me think of it, and I know it's that season down at Spalding that the kids are filling out the scholarship applications. I'll make a motion to find $500 under the school board section of the budget to put towards a scholarship for Paul School student.
Be seniors?
Current seniors.
Of Wakefield? So it's not Paul?
No, of Wakefield.
I second.
I'd like to see it be someone that was a student of Paul's school. I think it's a school, I don't know.
Okay.
That's what we always did. They
Paul's-
had to be a senior who graduated
From Paul's school.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm thinking,
Okay.
We also weren't able, you can't, if they're graduating from Spalding and they're part of Wakefield, how do you? Because
If
we
they were
are
homeschooled.
their school board as well.
Homeschooled kids would be
Yeah.
would be able to gain the same scholarship if
They
they.
always were.
We did as a PTA, but I don't,
We did, but I think it's all,
it's
the
how,
board has the right
whatever the
to
board wants
decide
to
on
do.
who can put in and who can't.
I mean, I still have the letters from the 3 schools that we had sent notifying them of scholarship. We just have to change it to the school board. Here's how you want to word it.
a student from Wakefield, I guess. Because there could be homeschool students there.
Right, and if they're homeschooled, then they wouldn't qualify if we say Paul School.
Mm.
So it'd be nice
Do
to
you want
have.
to say resident of Wakefield, because someone might have been a student of Wakefield and no longer be a student of Wakefield? You want them to be a current resident of Wakefield?
Resident, yeah.
Current resident of Wakefield.
And, yeah,
Current resident student from Wakefield.
Current resident of Wakefield and former student of Paul School.
Well, we don't want to add the
Not
former
necessarily.
student of Paul School because then that eliminates the homeschool children.
high school senior resident of Wakefield.
Yeah.
So I think from a practical standpoint, you need to either empower somebody or some group to define the criteria,
Mhm.
or you should take a motion to adopt the criteria that were in place from the PTO group, and then that would be the criteria. You also need to decide who it is that's going to read applications on behalf of the board and make that decision, just so it's clear and there's not any question about process.
Do they have to write an essay?
They did.
That's
We picked
what-
a different topic every year, and we
Right.
actually had a committee that volunteered to read them, and we actually used to bring in a board member and the
Mhm.
principal or whoever, and kind of
Just read through. There were 5 of us.
Yeah, we blocked out all the names so no one knew who they
Yeah.
were and just read them.
And we just blocked the names and numbered them, and then just passed it around and
What if-
voted.
What if the school board, is the PTA still an entity? I mean, could we
It will no
could we
longer
move
be.
to
It won't
give
be.
the $500 to the PTA?
No,
to-
No, it
because
is
there
no
is no
longer-
PT.
It's no longer
All right.
in existence at this point in time.
No.
Just thought about it.
But it doesn't mean that we can't do the same as a board, you know, and that's what Judy said. We have a motion, we have a second.
Yeah.
We can do it, and we can follow the same criteria, and that, at least we still are able to offer it.
Is it now the time to maybe amend the motion to reflect what Jay's saying?
Or
Yeah.
it could be a second motion,
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
All right, I just need people to dictate it slowly. A motion, not everybody's comments, please.
Motion to approve $500 for a scholarship for a high school senior resident of Wakefield.
It would not mean that he graduated from Ball School at all. It just happens to have moved in the year before in his junior year to Wakefield.
Yeah, I know, that's why I was kind of sticking
Still
with the
okay.
Paul School graduate, too. I don't know.
Well, Judy, could it be, say, Paul School graduate / homeschool? Could you make it both, and then you'd have your Paul School
Homeschool
graduate,
resident?
homeschooled?
Yeah, you could do that.
If it's a Wakefield student.
Paul School, yeah, Paul School graduate or homeschool
Okay,
resident.
let's start over again, ladies and
Well,
gentlemen.
continue from where you
Motion to
were.
approve $500 for a scholarship for a,
High school senior.
High school senior
yep,
who either graduated from Paul School
slow down. Please. Yep,
or is a homeschooled resident
Wakefield.
of Wakefield. That makes everybody happy.
what?
I don't know, might not make everybody happy.
Well, it's impossible to make everyone
That's
happy. We
right.
just get as close as we can.
Did you get beyond the 12th grade, or are you still in this, you can apply for the?
I spent 3 years in the 12th grade, you leave me alone.
And Liz, you'll still offer the second on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I would suggest that Jay come up with a topic for a question.
Is that 4 or 5?
I did say aye.
Okay. I didn't hear you.
I'll speak softly.
And the principal, vice principal, superintendent, and the 2 English teachers be the committee. How's that?
So that's the super, the principal, the vice principal,
And the 2 English teachers.
2 English teachers.
That's a motion?
That's a suggestion. I guess I can make it a motion.
I'll second it. Unless you guys don't want more work.
No, that's fine. That's enjoyable work.
Yeah. So there is a motion to have the superintendent come up with the application process,
The topic.
Topic
application topic.
and application, because I assume it would have questions like name, address, telephone number, year graduated from Paul School,
Topic and process.
residency form, you might pick up a residency form.
Topic and application, a committee to be made up of the superintendent, the principal, vice principal, and 2 English teachers.
Mhm.
Okay, and a second on that motion?
Second?
Didn't Liz second it?
Well, that was
I
the
did,
first
but it don't
motion.
matter.
Actually, Ralph did.
Ralph
Oh,
Ralph
Ralph.
seconded. You're all confused.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See, she didn't, you said it the first time, she didn't hear you and I heard you. Okay.
Okay, let's move on to financial reports.
Any questions on the expense report?
I thought you said we weren't allowed to ask questions. Oh.
Keep in mind that the 887 is reduced by the 117 for the warrant article for the asbestos removal and renovation.
Oh, right. I just have a question. With the textbooks, isn't that still the social studies program?
Yes.
And have they done anything with that yet?
If you remember, Mary said that she was going to put together an order and get together with the representative in March.
Okay. So that's still holding out. What about the summer school?
We didn't spend that money last year because the asbestos project, we only had the,
Well, we had the 8,100
So what we're looking at now, is that an extra copy?
No.
that's the amount remaining.
Okay. And you can,
Send it to you also.
or next meeting.
Yeah, it's all encumbered. That's another.
No, the encumbrances is here. It's all spent, that's what's been
Total
spent.
actual encumbered, right. That's showing, because we have the 51 and it's.
What line are we looking at, please?
I'm looking at the co-curriculum summer school.
1,451.
Thank you. Andrew, do you see where we are?
On page 2?
Yeah, 1,451,200. And it's currently negative, do you know?
The 2988.
Yeah, the negative will probably go away because I think that $8,000 is encumbered with the thought of summer school expenses taking place and it never did.
But it's not an encumbrance,
No.
it's under the reporting period. It's having been spent.
Okay, I'll check into it, let's see what that represents.
Thank you.
Good catch.
Thanks.
Anything else in the expense report?
Professional development, page 4. I'm just looking at the amount that we had in the budget and the amount that's left. We're having $10,000 there. It looks like we're either way off or, it says total actual income is 11,000.
Yeah, we've been able to use a lot of grant money for our professional development this year, so my guess is that some things that were budgeted to be in the budget, we've been able to spend other places. Is that correct, Andrew?
That's correct.
Okay, anything under grants? revenue.
On the revenue, the federal nutrition fund, we finally got the check from the state a week or so ago for going back from October through January. So that'll be shown on the next on the next revenue report.
Do you know how much that was?
Excuse me?
Do you know how much it was?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Do you know how much it was,
No, I don't.
roughly?
No, I don't want to guess. But see, what happens is the state writes out the check to the SAU, then we have to send it to Wakefield and Milton separately, their portion. But I worked with the state today, we're going to start having the check sent directly to each district, so we can get into the revenue report a little bit quicker.
Is there any question on the student activity account? Cafe services account? And the treasurer's report. I had a couple of questions on that. This one that you just gave us today, Andrew?
That's the January 31st.
Correct. 3 up from the bottom, it says Wakefield School District, FFVP.
That's the fresh fruits and vegetable program.
Right. So we're receiving that check?
Sorry?
We are receiving that check?
Yes.
Then why is Cafe Services including it on their revenue?
Well, it's still part of the revenue stream because they're paying for the food or the fresh fruits and vegetables that are going out, so they're showing it as revenue to offset the expense.
So are we writing them a check?
No.
But we're getting the check.
Right, and their expense report or their financial statement is showing that the expense is offset by the revenue that came in for the fresh fruits and vegetables.
But
they're showing it as a revenue, and they don't have it. Because
they're also showing it as part of the food cost, which is an expense to them.
I've never seen such creative bookkeeping by a company in my life.
I don't think it should be part of it at all, because then that's changing all the numbers to make it look like we have less of a deficit than we actually do.
It's both a revenue and an expense to them, so there's no net.
But the revenue's coming to us.
But the revenue's coming to us, but we're not going out and buying fresh fruits and vegetables.
It's the same.
They're the ones that are purchasing it. We're getting the money in, they're purchasing it, so they're having it as an income and an expense. If they were taking in this amount of money and their expense for fresh fruits and vegetables was $4,000, that would be in violation of the grant. They would be making money from the fresh fruits and vegetables.
But I don't want that in the accounting at all. That should be a totally separate account. In their projections to us, it did not include anything about the fresh fruits and vegetable money. They're including that in their sales income, on their revenue sheets. They're including that in sales, and you can't do that.
And it shouldn't be showing under sales.
That needs to be
Revenue, but it
totally
shouldn't be under
separated
sales. Yeah.
from that.
Well, I agree that it shouldn't be showing as sales.
We'll get to that
So
when we
we'll
get to
put that on
cafe
the next.
services, because I've got some numbers I want to go over with that. And you had said at last meeting or a couple meetings ago that we started charging kids for the damage to the bus seats.
Yeah.
I've never seen a revenue on a treasurer's report from anything like that, so where's the money?
Good question. Andrew, do you know?
I have to check with Tim where how that's being handled, because that's being paid to the school here.
Well, we need to figure out where it's being paid and let the board know.
It can't go to the student activity fund, it needs to go to the school district.
It was a student activity.
Andrew, I haven't had any incidences out of my building for damage.
Okay, so,
I'll check with Tim where
Yeah.
how that's
Where-
being handled. I mean, they were billed, doesn't necessarily mean they paid. So I'll have to, we'll have to verify that they paid as well as being billed.
Andrew? Back on the expense report when you get a chance? Page 8, the transportation coordinator. Shut. $23,409.
the date you said?
Right, because we have to bill Milton their portion of their 50% portion of the transportation coordinator's expenses, salary and benefits.
How often does that get billed to Milton, Andrew?
We just do it once a year. I'll be doing that within the next month or so. See, what happens is the transportation coordinator was originally a Wakefield employee, so their salaries and everything is charged to Wakefield through the payroll system. And then I invoice Milton for his portion of their expense. And the opposite happens with the maintenance director. Milton's paying the salary and benefits, and I charge Wakefield back for the 33 or the 35%. That is your portion.
I just want to go back to the minutes of the last meeting on 2/20. Under bus repairs, it was reported that 1 Paul School and 2 Spalding students have been held accountable for bus damage.
Now, wait for my moment. Nate corrected me that we did have 1 student,
Okay.
so I didn't want to cut poor Steve off.
Because that should be showing up as revenue under the...
Yep.
Andrew, did you want to talk about, you had this fundraising proposal in your package as well? That insurance program? I know, you're at a loss here.
No,
I'm sorry.
I can keep shuffling these.
Yeah, I had a gentleman approach me that works for, he's an independent insurance agent with the HBL group.
Ralph.
And he wants to offer the employees of the school districts, both Milton and Wakefield, insurance, and if they decide to go with them, he would contribute, I believe it's $25 on each policy he writes to the school district. So there's no, the school district has no part in what he's doing. It's just that if any of the teachers or employees of the school district take out insurance with him, he'll give us a check for $25.
Well, I also see that you put our policy in here, public solicitations in the schools, and to me, that falls under that, and we shouldn't be allowing it. We shouldn't start having businesses coming in and trying to sell their product to our, because this does say teachers, parents, family, and friends. This is like they want to market this. They want to market themselves. It's not just for teachers, according to...
Well, I'd love to hear the policy, because there's a line on the policy that the school board could reserve the right to grant exceptions. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. If you don't want to, that's fine. I'll just let them know that.
I'm not interested in allowing it. I don't know if anybody else is.
I don't want to say for instance to having outside companies come and solicit.
Do you need a motion on that, or just...
No, because
consensus?
you would have to take an action to have an exemption to your own policy. If you don't take an action, the policy stands.
Okay.
Stick with the policy.
We received the principal's report in our packet. Did anyone have any questions on that?
Could I add to that also, Judy?
Sure.
We had NAEP assessment, which is basically considered the nation's report card. And that was, we started that today. We get selected. We're invited to participate. That's one of those invitations you can't refuse. You know, so we get the invitation from, basically it comes from the DOE. Today, this year we're testing 4th grade and 8th grade in both reading and math. And by lottery, the students in 4th grade and 8th grade are given the test they're going to take, whether it be math or reading. They don't take both. And so today, we were scheduled for 4th grade, but with the pending storm, tomorrow, we weren't quite sure what it was going to look like this morning at 9 o'clock. So we were scheduled to do the 8th grade test tomorrow. We do what we do in schools at times, so we punt, and we say, okay, how can we make this work without having to reschedule and possibly not having that opportunity to take the assessment because it's so late in the springtime. So we took the test at 9 o'clock this morning with 4th grade, and because NAEP showed up with the 8th grade paperwork, we did the 8th grade test at 1 o'clock. And so we got that done and out of the way, and which is good for us. I think it's one thing we need to point out that I got some paperwork from NAEP that we don't hear very often, that NAEP indicates that the state of New Hampshire is #1 in the country in NAEP assessment.
Wow.
There's nobody better than us,
Wow.
and we're ahead of everybody in the country. So I just want to point, I don't think we don't hear that very often. We don't put that out in the news very often,
great.
but New Hampshire is #1.
And we're pulling away from the pack.
Well, I don't know about we're pulling away from the pack, Ralph, but I can say that, when we look at NECAP, sometimes we beat ourselves up, we compare ourselves to
Yeah.
other districts,
Yeah.
but we're #1 in the country right now. And I think that's good for us to present to ourselves, our students, and in the community, and let them all know that what we're doing in the state is really working.
That's
The
good.
DOEs, the initiatives, the No Child Left Behind initiative we started, 10 years ago, it's a model for the state, and a model for the country. They're following, they ask New Hampshire DOE to come and speak around the country about the model we're using in the state. So again, just wanted to kind of put that out to you. I hadn't heard that news until this morning.
That's awesome, thank you.
Yeah, it's good news to pass on.
You were calling it NAEP?
NAEP, yes, NAEP.
Yeah.
National Assessment of Educational Progress.
Well, it's, I believe the graduation supplies to report, or?
Sure, go for it.
Steve, do you have a question?
Yes, speaking of the No Child Left Behind, does anyone know where we stand on the exemption?
Oh, if New Hampshire got the waiver.
Right.
It has not been reported yet, although I have a commissioners meeting that was scheduled for this Friday that was moved to Tuesday, and I was told that it was a very important meeting that they didn't want superintendents to miss. They didn't say why, but we've been waiting for a while to hear whether or not we got the waiver. So the fact they're saying this is an important meeting, maybe there's news.
Probably have a decision.
And one of the things that doesn't fall into my report, we've talked a lot about changing the end-of-year ceremony for 8th grade to a graduation. And there are some expenses that are coming up with that were unanticipated because we've not done a graduation in the past. And so I'm asking to be authorized to spend up to $1,800 for caps and gowns, as well as diplomas. The diplomas are an 8x7 rectangular diploma. It would be printed in Wakefield School District. The student's name would be pre-printed on there. It would come in a folder. It would also be embossed with the Paul School on the outside in gold lettering, and inside would be a sketch of the school itself on the inside cover. Those run at about $12 a piece. Our gowns are only about $15 a piece with a cap, gown, tassel, and stole. And I believe my plan would be to allow the students to keep their tassel, obviously, and their cap, but retain the cap and the gown and stole for us to use in future years.
You're buying these
That's it.
or renting?
We would be buying. They're about $15 a piece. You really can't rent them. And the amount that we would need, the weight of them would be for shipping, and it would be.
But you'd be reusing them.
We'd
every
be
year.
reusing them. And I think we'd probably have to replace a few every year and also buy new ones as we have smaller and larger kids that we may not fit into, and through wear and tear.
I think it's important to bring back the formal graduation that we had years ago. These children are leaving Wakefield to go off to high school, just as any high school would go off to college. So I think it's great.
I think it's a big deal, and I want to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, it should be a big deal. It'd be nice to have a formal graduation again.
So I'm just asking for that authorization to, expend up to $1,800.
I'll make
out
the
of the
motion to
general.
authorize you to spend up to $1,800 for graduation.
I think we had 1,000 budgeted.
And those materials were for other, printed materials that were usually done, I expect to still be done, and this is the cost above and beyond that.
That's
Judy.
above and beyond that.
Correct.
So the motion will be to authorize you to spend an additional $1,800 toward graduation in here at the whole school.
So that would be for a total of 28?
For a total of
Right.
28, yes, sir.
But the accounts would be used, we use
I
those.
don't understand that, but I just would like to know.
I'll second the
There's,
discussion.
there's $4,300 left in the co-curricular special events line.
There you go. So I made the motion and Ralph seconded it.
Yeah.
For discussion.
Further
maybe.
discussion?
Yeah.
Did you have discussion?
I'm listening.
Okay.
That's the best part of my discussion. I'll listen. I just didn't want the motion to die for lack of a second.
Oh, okay. So we have a motion and a second. Do you have any questions?
Liz? No questions. No questions. No comments? I don't ever honestly remember the kids having caps and gowns. I remember formal
Right.
dresses and suits, but I don't remember the kids ever having caps and gowns.
The advantage of a
That's,
cap and gown is that it levels the playing field
That's
for
right.
those students that don't have access to clothes that they would feel
Mhm.
comfortable attending a formal event.
That's right.
And I understand that. Nate said the same thing, and I said,
Mhm.
I've never done a graduation without a cap and gown.
Okay.
We can spare 1,800.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. That concludes my report.
I do want to say I went to the kneecap presentation of the awards, and there was 254 kids that got awards. I signed 254 certificates with this hand, and I shook 254 hands with this hand.
Boy, and Mr.
And
Byrne
it
did a
was-
great job
But
keeping
it
those
was-
names all going, didn't he?
Well, yeah, he did pretty good.
You say 254, Judy. I want to point out and not everybody got an award, but we had 284 students take that assessment, and 254 kids either made proficiency or made 10% growth from last year.
That's
That's
amazing.
the point I wanted to make.
I just wanted to kind of
That's
Yep.
the
amazing.
number of kids that took the the assessment and how many kids made that progress.
And it was an upbeat presentation, and the kids were all really excited, and they were proud to get those certificates, so I think it was well worth it. Plus, they gave away, 2 Kindles?
Kindle, 2
Yeah.
Kindle Fires, 2 Color
An
Nooks, and an
iPad.
iPad
And
too.
an
Right.
iPad. Yeah, so it was good presentation. Discipline report?
Yes, looking at my discipline report for the month of February, total referrals, 29. That's actually down 2 from the previous month. It was looking really, really low until right before vacation. We got inundated with people coming in, students right at that end of that week, and it jumped up. But overall, it's still lower. Repeat offenders only took up 28%. That's a little bit more than the month before, but that's because we had some students coming in quite a bit. Third grade was great this month. Looking at total year-to-date referrals, 259. And that number's going, up, but overall percentage of students is going down. Looking at our repeat offenders who have 6 or more office referrals at this point is down to 37%. So we're dropping that number quickly. Each month it's getting better and better because we're not seeing the same students over and over. We are seeing some misbehavior of certain students, poor choices that are putting us up into that 29 bracket. But they're like first-time offenses, and I think at this point the teachers are just looking at it as, okay, this should stop. They need to know that this isn't acceptable, and we're going to make sure that they know it. And that's really what we're looking at. Right before vacation, we did have a high number of some discipline issues that wound up looking at suspensions. That had been going down, but this last month we did have a little bit of an increase, looking at overall events of 7. And that's more than what we had, but they were things of some of our repeat offenders, as well as the level of the behavior really required that the action was higher. Looking at our numbers, if you look at the charts, really, it's still, suspensions still take a lower toll over what would be processing behavior and detention as a majority. And then if you look at our monthly intervals, you can see that the trend's going down. The largest trend overall, as I said, that went up would have been the suspensions as well as detentions. We did have some of those because it all came at the end of the year. End of the month right before the break. So.
Congratulations to the 3rd grade.
Yes, they did a great job.
Actually, for 8th grade, that's pretty good too.
Yeah, 8th grade is very good.
8th grade.
No, that was very good. They did a great job. Overall,
Nate, where are most of your behavior problems happening? Is it in the classroom, recess, hallways, lunch?
We have very little in the hallway. The cafeteria is lower as well. Really what we're looking at for the most part is the class or recess. Recess, that unstructured time, gets a little rough sometimes, especially with all the snow and being confined to that narrow driveway or road. That's where we see some more. When they're out on the field, it's not as much. They can run, get some more of that energy out. They know how to do it, as opposed to being confined to that tar. It makes it a little harder. There's more of them in that tight space.
Quarters, yeah.
So they're a little more physical than what they should be. And then a lot of those indoor recesses, when I say recess, the indoor recess really, when they're used to going out, that jumps it. I will tell you that 6 of these referrals this month were all during indoor recess. I know that off the top, just because they were coming in fast from indoor recess. Outdoor recess, we had a couple more. And then the classroom. And really when we look at the classroom, we're looking at just students who are making poor choices in not responding to the first approach or second approach of them asking to have something done. They would rather say no, and we're letting them know that that's not a choice.
We had a lot of indoor recess this month also.
Yeah.
We use a benchmark of 20 degrees, whether that's 20 degrees air temperature or 35 degrees with a wind chill that brings it down to 19. We use that 20 degrees as our benchmark. But we go outside, or if the weather, there's just a lot of precipitation. So we had a lot of that this month, and those poor teachers, they're like, "Oh, you're kidding me, Jerry? Come on!" Say, "No, we got to hold firm to it," and we do hold, absolutely firm to it. So.
Thank you, Nate.
Yeah, if that's something you'd like to see on there, I can try to put that on the next one. Just a breakdown of.
I was just kind of curious where the situations are occurring. You had your administration update in your packet.
Hey, Nate.
Policies, second reading.
It's something that binding in the first reading, but the word only in the next to the last line, in all circumstances shall be met when.
met only when?
Yes,
You changed that last time.
I thought we did.
Yeah, you did.
We have the rest of them too, don't we, Judy?
Yeah, we've got a whole pile of them, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Did anyone, I'm sorry, Ralph.
That's okay, Debbie. I was gonna ask the numbers, but I can wait to get a copy afterwards.
Yep. Did anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I got a couple, EH.
That's all I got.
The paragraph 2, let's see, it would be 1, 2, 3, the third line down, the sentence beginning, if the requested record or document is in active use by the district or is otherwise unavailable, the party requesting the information will be informed by writing that the record is not currently available, and that he or she will be notified immediately in writing upon it becoming available. That's a requirement of the RSA, that it be put in writing. It also protects the district as far as notification purposes go. If it's in writing, someone can't say, well, you know, if it's not in writing, someone can say, well, I never received it, never heard of it. But if it's to be put in writing, which the RSA requires, then there is no, it's not left up to subject. You know, there's written notification, so therefore there's no question to it, so.
Does anyone have any objection to that?
No?
Oh, and actually, the paragraph 4 will be made within 10 days. The RSA requires 5, so that should be, if it's not going to be able to be made within 5 days, they need to be notified in writing. That an additional time would have to be requested, or the, what is it, 1, 2, 3, the
Well,
third?
this 10 days is for the opinion of the lawyer.
Right, but by RSA.
That we have to make the request of a lawyer's opinion within 10 days.
But you have to, by RSA, you have to provide the information in 5 days. So if you're gonna need an attorney's opinion, which could take 10, you would have to notify the individual in writing by the 5th day what the RSA requires.
Yeah, you'd have to notify them, but what it's saying is the superintendent has 10 days to get the opinion.
Right, but he would have to notify the individual within 5 in writing.
Which RSA is that, Steve, do you know?
Pardon me?
Do you know which RSA?
91A.
Under 91A, the 5 day.
And the other one I have is ECAF. I think this needs to go, be taken back and redone, because there's too many, looking it over.
Okay. I don't have that in my package.
ECAF? I have it here.
Just for the public's knowledge, we have a fire alarm that's beeping. It's not going
Smoke
off,
alarm.
but a smoke alarm. It's just beeping. So they've called someone in to check it out. It's not going off as an alarm. So if you do see anything, you'll realize why the fire department's here or whatever.
Not because my truck's parked out there.
What's the problem with this one, Steve?
Well, number one, in the second part, notification. There is no notification to parents. Having a sign on a school bus is not notification to parents. Parents don't get on the school bus. That's the first problem. The third paragraph charges...
Can I just answer that?
Yeah.
They are notified in the student handbook at the beginning of the year.
But we used to send a notice home, did we not?
Yes, they get it at the beginning of the year. It's in part of the student handbook.
Okay.
If they sign off on it, I believe.
I'm sorry.
The
I'm
student
coming in.
handbook, the audio and video
Yeah.
surveillance,
Has the notification of
has the
parents.
I believe
cameras.
so.
Yeah.
And they have to sign off on it.
They have to sign off on the handbook, yeah, that they've read it and
Okay, as long as
understand it.
All right, paragraph 3. It's charging the superintendent with establishing who the people who may be authorized, I'm sorry. It charges the superintendent on who may view and listen to the recordings. But in paragraph 4, paragraph 4 is contradictory to paragraph 3 because it specifically tells the superintendent who he may allow to see the video, where in paragraph 3, it gives the charge to the superintendent. Paragraph 4 does not include parents, which is clearly in the RSA. Parents have the absolute right to view that video.
We had a discussion with Scott about this. They don't have the right to view it, they have the right to listen to it, I believe. Wasn't it?
Well, where this gets complicated is whether or not the video is an educational record, because it's covered under FERPA. So if the video shows something that pertains to a specific student that might involve discipline to that student, my understanding is because it triggers discipline that would be an educational record. If it is an educational record, then the person has a right to it. I agree with you that we should be taking out the word only in the recordings may be viewed only by the following persons, because those people are authorized when expressly authorized, but I also have the responsibility to decide if it's an educational record for your child, then you have a right because it's an educational record. If her child is also shown, but her child is not involved with the discipline, there's specific case law that says it's an educational record for you, you've got the right, she doesn't have the right.
Well, that's
So there's some very specific stuff, so I believe the word only after the word viewed should come out. These people may view after being authorized by the superintendent, and others may be authorized by the superintendent on an as-needed basis if it's an educational record for that student.
So
That's my
just take out the
understanding.
word only?
But I think that should be part of the policy.
Take out the word
Because,
only.
I mean, it's in the RSA, that parents, yes, I agree that as a part of the educational record, if it's your kid, you have a right to see that piece of it. And I think that should be reflected in the policy.
Well, it says here that it becomes part of a student's educational record. in the second to last paragraph.
The provisions of policy JRA.
Well,
Do you have policy JRA?
I got the RSA.
No, but it refers to, in that case, the provisions of policy JRA shall apply. So I guess it depends on.
Such administrative procedure shall permit the parents or legal guardian of any student against whom a recording is being used as part of a disciplinary proceeding to listening to the recording.
Right, and that's, JRA is FERPA. That's the law that I referenced.
But this references JRA.
It's a 7-page long policy which defines an educational record. It references personally identifiable information such as data or information about a student. There's annual notification that we have to make available at the beginning of the school year. There's a procedure to inspect educational records. Parents or eligible students may inspect or review educational records which they're entitled to, which goes back to what you're saying.
So
If it does
that's what
become an
that
educational
RSA
record,
It's that policy
then-
JRA.
Yeah, but the RSA, which supersedes any policy, prior to any recording, you know, the school board shall hold a public hearing to determine whether audio recording should be authorized in school bus. And if authorized, the school board shall establish an administrative procedure to address the length of time. I don't see a length of time addressed in this. Which the recording is retained, ownership of the recording, limitations on who may listen to the recording, and provisions.
But that's an administrative procedure, not a policy. The school board shall develop an administrative procedure, and our superintendent develops those, not us.
But the RSA states, prior to any recording, this has to be put in place. So if it's not put in place, then there should be no recording being done at this present time.
So it says.
And the RSA specifically has the criteria, like that the recordings cannot be retained for longer than 10 days. I think that should be part of the policy. I mean,
That should be part of the administrative procedure.
which is required prior to any recording. So,
Is there an ECAFR?
and I think that
There is.
the criteria in the RSA needs to be reflected in the policy.
It needs to be reflected in the administrative procedure.
Well, yes.
And the
Which
administrative
is-
procedure needs to be written by the administration and presented to the school
Correct.
board.
Which the policy specifies, which is not done yet.
Sometimes they're in the back, Jack.
I don't see it in the back of the E section, nor do I see it
In the
with ECA.
appendix.
Does the superintendent have such procedures in place?
Not new, so we have to determine, we certainly have practices that are in place, but whether or not the practices are based on a procedure that was adopted before I arrived, I do not know. ECAFR I do not find in the appendix.
There has to be, according to the RSA, there has to be an administrative procedure established prior to recording.
Well, there may have been an administrative procedure that was in place because presumably there was a public hearing prior to the initial recording. If there is not an administrative procedure in place now, which it does not appear that there is, then we have to rectify that immediately.
Well, that's why I'm saying, if there isn't, then it should be a part of this policy.
Jay, why don't you have Kathy do some research and make sure that
There wasn't one in the
there
past.
was a public
Okay.
hearing, and I'm sure there must be a procedure.
Bless you.
Excuse me, thank you.
ECAF. If anybody would know, it would be Kathy.
Yeah,
So we should probably table that. No.
table that one for now.
Thank you. Pretty catchy.
Anything else? Any other questions on policies? I'll make a motion to accept BEDC, EDCA, EEAE, EEAEC, EEBB, this is a tongue twister, EFE, EH, EHB, and EDCA as revised. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I will abstain on that.
I'll abstain.
I'm sorry, what about EH? Do we amend that? to
EH as amended.
Okay.
Those are all revised. All those in favor? Did I get that?
Aye.
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 I'll make a motion to accept the following as reaffirmed. EEAF, EGAD, EGADR, EI, ECAF.
I thought you were going to table.
ECAF we tabled.
Oh, sorry. I have that on two different sheets here I'm looking at.
Second your motion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're going to abstain again, right?
I will.
BBC.
Feel that.
The EDC we're going to send back.
ECAF,
And that's the one we're tabling.
we're tabling. Okay, did I take a vote on that? Yes, I did, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion for EBBC-R, JLCJ, EHBR, to adopt those as new policies.
Second?
Motion.
Made a motion.
I need a motion.
Oh, you made,
Yep.
oh, I'm sorry.
And there's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
What about the EDC?
Did I miss one?
EDC, we
It's the one that needs correction still.
I did that as revised. That was one of the first
That was the
ones.
revised.
My notes say that one, that BEDC and EH have been accepted as revised and amended.
Mhm.
But do we count the amendments we make here as well as the amendments we make at the policy committee meeting? Because this is the same change we made last time, but it hasn't gone forward.
The only?
Yeah,
We approved that change last time.
yeah, but
And we
it
just
doesn't
voted
show
on
up
it.
now.
No, when they bring us back, when they redo the policies, our final ones, they'll make the change.
It'll be in the print.
It'll be in the print. That's what they've always done.
It's approved as amended.
Okay.
Cafe services, federal lunch program.
I did some checking on that. The Title I grant that the Wakefield Hall School receives, a big part of that grant is the free and reduced applications. And when I talked about the food service and the state person that we do our grants with, she says that if you're not getting your applications currently for free and reduced, and then you go into a program where they don't have to pay for anything, it's going to be impossible to get the applications to be able to get the right amount of money on your grant. You might end up losing a lot of money because of that. Because it's all contingent on what your free and reduced percentage is, and if your parents aren't now filling out the application, you're going to get less people filling it out when there's no incentive for them to do it. Does that make sense?
The grant is based on those applications.
Right.
So without the applications, if we do decide not to go that route.
Their concern is that, schools are having a hard enough time getting parents to apply for the program because of, they don't want to embarrassment, whatever the reason might be. That's going to be even more difficult to get them to fill out the application if there's no incentive to do it.
How much money are we talking about in this grant? Are we talking about a couple of thousand, or are we talking?
Title I is over 100 a year.
Over 100,000, and we would forfeit that if we didn't?
No, it's not. It's not a matter of forfeiting. It's that you get a greater amount if you have a higher percentage of qualifying.
Well, I thought our students were automatically qualified. They didn't have to fill anything out if they received.
There's a report that comes out monthly by the state. So we don't need applications. But you still have a big percentage of your parents that still need to fill out the application because they're not in the program that would get their name on this list.
Okay.
Which is welfare or receiving food stamps or something like that.
Okay.
The other things you lose by not being part of the federal nutrition program is the commodity foods.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
You would lose the fresh fruits and vegetable grant. And the extra 6 cents for lunch. And the federal funds for the severe need breakfast. And then I said it affects your Title I program. If you don't get the parents to fill out you still need to fill out the application whether you're in the nutrition program or not.
Well, the same parents that are not filling them out now are not going to fill them out then,
Right,
So
we got to get
that-
more people to fill it out because they know there's no reason to because they're still going to get the lunch.
Could we send out a new letter offering them $10 if they would return the form?
You can write out the checks?
Well, I'm serious. It's a much greater loss than $10 if we don't get the forms.
But that would be a school board decision. You could do that.
I don't think you can do it.
I would be. I don't think I'd want to get involved in that.
We were able to identify one district in the state, correct? That is
It was
not
a high school which is not affected by the Title I grant is not affected by it.
So it's a high school that doesn't have Title I.
Well, we need publicity on the thing. I mean, probably the entire population in Wakefield doesn't know this situation.
Well,
I don't know the situation. What's the situation?
The question was raised last time, Ralph, about there are so many strings attached to the federal lunch program. The amount that students are allowed to be served is limited, and some students feel like they're hungry. The types of food that have to be served and the percentages of each types of food that have to be served are so stringent that there's not a lot of flexibility in ways that you can meet that. And when you meet that, you're not necessarily able to provide foods that students are going to opt for under the program. So the board discussed last time, why wouldn't we just forego the federal money and provide more home-cooked meals like we all do at our homes that might not have exactly the right proportion of vegetables or fruits, but it's got some, and it's good, hearty meals, and we make it available to every student that wants to eat. And the feeling was free. And the feeling was that the board and potentially the community is more interested in feeding its students than it is in bringing in, some thousands of dollars from the federal government that really limits our ability to provide the sort of food that we might be able to offer otherwise. So that's what we're trying to wrestle with, is getting in this money for food cuts down the cost of what the taxpayers have to pay for, but it brings a huge number of strings with it, including the fact that it's linked to our Title I funds, which is a very large grant that supports reading and math for qualifying students in the district. Maybe what we should do, Andrew, and I know it would be a ballpark estimate only, but maybe for next time we could try to quantify a little more about if we showed no free and reduced students, would we get any of the Title I money? How much would we get? Is it a $20,000 reduction in Title I aid? How much is our fresh fruits and vegetable program? That's another $10,000. How much would we be missing in the 6 cents per meal? And see if we can quantify a little more so the board's in a better position to find out what's the actual cost of pulling out of the federal lunch program.
I also
Would that be
think if you tell
useful?
parents that your child will be able to eat for free, every child in this school will eat for free, and they will eat a full meal. They're not going to be offered all this stuff that they're not going to eat. They're going to throw all this out. Then maybe that's enough incentive to fill out the paperwork and send it in. And that's all we need to get the grants, right?
Well,
So
it's
wouldn't
not
that be an incentive?
Not only the cost of what you're going to be losing, it's the cost of buying the food that we buy for every single
And we
meal,
can
every
negotiate with
single
different
day,
businesses and-
all year.
It would be helpful to have the numbers.
Absolutely.
And
Even if
we
it was a wash, it would be worth it if the kids are fed something that they're actually going to eat. And
Well,
if
if they're
we feed all,
hungry, I
they're
mean-
still hungry.
They're still hungry
And they're
because either
throwing
they're
out all
not
these
getting
vegetables.
enough or they don't like what, they're not eating what they get.
Right. And they have to provide these certain amount of green vegetables, right? And that's fine, and we can still provide it, but it could be an option to children who like it. And maybe have some option, it's not a problem, give them a hamburger if that's what they want, but if they have all these portions, and these kids are always hungry, then, it's not right. I don't think we're acting in the best interest of the kids. I think they need to be fed. Studies show that a child who's well fed does better in school. So let's feed them. Simple as that. Get rid of all these strings if we can.
Well, another question that I think we would want to look at is timing. When do we have to commit to the federal lunch program? Because if we could say to parents, if we get 80% response rate by August 15th for free and reduced lunch forms, then we're going to provide food for everybody and put it out into the community. We don't care whether you qualify or not. Fill out the form and get it in and set some benchmark that's going to help us achieve the level that would allow us to continue to get the Title I support. But an unanswered question that Andrew and I have talked about, and we don't have a clear answer yet, is whether or not you have to have a certain percentage. The percentages are based on 12. At 24% free and reduced, you get a certain amount. At 36 and at 48 is when you max out. At 48%. So do you need to have 48% that are participating, or do you have to have 48% that show evidence they would qualify? If it's the latter, then we can just get the paperwork in if the timing allows us to do that. What's challenging is when we have to get those forms in, it's pretty late to be deciding in August.
Right,
How you're gonna
this
be
is
doing
something you need to decide now, because you've also got to decide whether you're going to go forward with cafe services as well.
Cafe Services is the new program that came in this past year.
Right. The other option you have is if you don't want to feed all the kids, a free lunch, you could just go with the, still just have the one meal and charge and then fill out the forms for the free and reduced. I think our problem why our program's costing us so much and why we're losing so much money is because we're doing stupid things like one of the most expensive things you can buy ingredients for in the wintertime is salad. And we're offering a salad every day. If you just had one meal a day, this is what's for lunch. And if you get your month schedule ahead of time, and the days that you don't like what's for lunch, then you bring your own lunch. if we're serving,
Well, we're going
I mean,
back
we
and
went
forth,
from-
because last year
we
you were
wanted to
talking
go to
about
all
wanting
these,
more options.
we wanted more options, but the reason
But
we
it's
wanted
costing
more
us too much,
options
and
was
the kids are
because
throwing them out.
we were sold on the fact that the options is what sells and makes the revenue.
And obviously, it's
And that's not what is
no,
happening.
we're still losing money.
So we thought by offering the à la cartes and the extra choices and everything, it would increase our revenue, but it's not.
It's not. We're still losing. And the other thing too is the type of foods they're buying is very expensive. The companies they're buying it from are expensive. These are areas that we can cut back. We can work with the local vendors. We can also keep more in the community with the farms and everything, and we can provide better food. You know, we're wasting a lot of money, and we're still showing a deficit. So we're not getting what we thought we were supposed to get.
If you look at, I just did some numbers after the last meeting. I went to their contract, and they had an operating statement of projected income and expenses. They were anticipating sales to be $103,410. Now, 6 months through the program, that we should be at about half of that, which would be about $51,000. Right now, they're showing for sales $34,648. And of that, we need to take out the $71.49 they're claiming that's fresh fruits and vegetables money, because that in their projections, it said nothing about fresh fruits and vegetables money. So that brings you down to $27.5. And then if you start taking out, they're saying that was sales, not revenue. That includes lunches that weren't paid for. So if you take out the money that wasn't paid for, that's another $5,800 you're taking out of that. I mean, you're down to $21,000 in revenue for sales at 6 months. Now, if sales for a year was supposed to be 103 and half of that's 51 and you're only at 20-something, you're not going to meet your projections at all. They're going to have just almost as big of a deficit as we were running. So what have we gained by hiring a company? Aggravation.
A lot of restrictions, and it's just aggravation. It's the continuous, it's constantly looking for what we were supposed to get in the contract. It's constantly pushing that and not getting anything until we're pushing them up against the wall.
Well, the latter part of what you said, I completely agree with. The restrictions didn't come from them. The restrictions came from changes in the federal requirements and came at a bad time. They came over last summer. So to stick up for them for a minute, if they made projections based upon a set of laws that no longer apply, they may be on a moving playing field, which is neither here nor there. The question is whether or not you want to stick with the service or not. What I said at the last meeting, I continue to advise for whatever it's worth. I think that if we want to look at getting out of the federal lunch program, I think that's a great thing to look at. I think it's an exciting prospect. I think the reality is, by the time you figure it all out, all of the paperwork, we've got sequestration that we're anticipating. We had a meeting this week on the effect of sequestration on our Title I grant for next year. There are so many moving parts that I think if you realistically want to pull out, you should be talking about pulling out a year from now and making a decision now about what you want to do for next year, whether you want to outsource or whether you want to pull it back in-house. I don't think the amount of paperwork and legal stuff you're going to have to go through to pull out of that program, I would be very concerned of pulling out unilaterally now without knowing where every nickel and dime that's going to affect. I'm just afraid that we might miss something, and you'd end up left holding the bag.
No, I would definitely want to study that further. I think it's worth,
So do I.
I think it's worth studying.
Yeah.
But for next year, I think that we should probably, my feeling is, go back to just in-house and offering one meal. I mean, we don't And for breakfast in the morning, have cereal as an option every day, and then one
Well, that's what they do.
different thing each day. But we don't, all these extra options isn't gaining us anything.
They're very costly. And even all the printed stuff that's in there, that's all costing, that we don't need to be spending that money.
Yeah, whatever you
I'd rather
want.
spend that on the food rather than having cups that are imprinted or having paper that has stamps. You know, I'd rather take that and buy an extra jar, an extra loaf of bread and make more sandwiches rather than spend it on ink. I'd rather feed the kids.
Yeah,
Maybe have-
whatever you want, that's entirely at the board's discretion.
I think we need to take it back in-house and really look forward, get all the figures, exactly what it'll cost us, what do we need to do in order to still get the grants and be able to provide all the children with the free lunch, and that should be a goal.
Once again, we need the numbers.
All the figures, right, absolutely.
If you take it back in-house, what will change from what it was?
All the cost of all this advertising, all the cost of us
No,
imprinting.
forget cafe services. If you put it back in-house as it was the year before last,
Mhm.
what will change to avoid the 75,000 deficit we were running then?
I
With the
think
same
it was
people,
59.
the same,
59. I think that, I think education, I think knowing where the money's going, I think maybe being a little more,
we were looking at where the money was going. That's why we went somewhere else, because the prices for pizza already made as opposed to the dough, the prices for possibly round pans instead of rectangular pans, all those kinds of little nitty-gritty
Right.
micromanagement details, they'd continue. There's no way to change that.
And they would be worse because the new regulations are more stringent than the ones that were in place before.
And that's what Cafe Services said at the last meeting. The reason is the big change for the students this year is because, like Jay said earlier, all the changes made over the summer for the federal nutrition program, plus last year it wasn't being followed 100%. Where Cafe Services is following it to what the government requires, so it's a bigger change than most other schools experience that have been properly following the nutrition program.
So we're gonna end up with almost the same deficit and
No,
kids
if
that
you
are
remember-
hungry.
kids are hungry.
Cafe
and-
Services is guaranteeing us a $7,000 profit.
That's not gonna happen.
Well, they
There's
were
no
gonna
way.
give us $5,000 in
And now we know
equipment, and
it's-
we
we're
found
told
out
it's a
that
no.
wasn't happening either.
Right. We were told this $5,000 investment, and none of us, no one, including yourself, knew that this was a loan. So we're supposed to entrust that we're going to be getting the $7,000. There's no way. There's no way. I think we're being bluffed.
As far as kids being hungry, if they all brought their lunch from home, many of those bags would go straight into the garbage.
We can't control all of that, but I think we can control the spending, and I think at this point, considering we're still going to be over $50,000 in the hole if things go the way they continue, then saving on all these extras will help us to lower that deficit. At the very least, at least we can cut that in half by doing that.
And you know something, they're guaranteeing us based on their sales.
which is
And their
not
sales include unpaid lunches. So we're still gonna eat the unpaid lunches because their profit or whatever that they're guaranteeing us is based on sales, which
Mhm.
also is including our fresh fruits and vegetable
Right.
money and our unpaid accounts.
Which is over $5,000 now.
Well, there was, in last year's board minutes, last school year, it was said that Cafe Services is not responsible for collecting the
That's right.
unpaid balances. That's not their
But
responsibility.
we're not even told about them. We also discussed the fact that once you have 3 unpaid lunches, that it needs to be brought forward. It needs to be brought to the administration. We need to be more proactive.
We are being, we can't collect, we can't collect from the parents after 2 letters that Ruth sends out to the parents. She goes to the administration, to Deb Wilson, the social worker, to help out to try and get collection, and we're doing that. I verified that with Ruth the last time she was here.
When did that start? Now that we have several $100s in
That
one-
started from the beginning of the school year. We were doing that last
So we've been making calls from
year.
the beginning?
Parents know you're gonna still feed their kids, they ignore it. If they're not gonna pay, they're
I
not gonna
understand
pay.
that, but I also know that there were parents who received maybe 1 or 2 bills, and as far as I was told the last meeting, there have been no phone calls made. There hadn't been any follow-ups. This is something that we brought to your attention, and then we were told that it was going to happen. So it wasn't happening since the beginning of the year. Maybe a
Well,
notice, but also, we
I
also
was
found
told it
out
was
the mail was
happening.
returned and then just dropped. It wasn't even brought to the administration. Nothing was verified. So you can send out a letter every week, but if the mail comes back and you just throw it away, what difference does that make? Why isn't it brought to the office? Why isn't Mr. Gregoire made aware of it, so he can see if this mail's coming back, we need to take a look at this child, find out why it's coming back. Do we have the wrong address? There's another student here, make a phone call. At that point, it should be done, not when they're $400 in a hole. You know, dragging this on and sending this little letter every week is not going to do it. We should be making phone calls from day one, and you should have known that there was a letter returned immediately, because that should have been a red flag.
I honestly, I thought that I thought I was exonerated from all control of CAF, and I was thrilled
Well,
that I
because
wasn't
that's
calling.
what- yeah,
But, you know,
that's
I thought
what we
that
were
was great. So our last board meeting was the first time I was made aware that
exactly.
they should be coming to me. I don't know if anybody's gone to Deb at this point. If Ruth.
I'm not,
it's just
you
been
know, I'm
written
going by
notice
what
going
Ruth
out.
told me, that they are, that she's been working with Deb Wilson when she doesn't get responses, if it's 2 or 3 letters or 2 or 3 phone calls.
And I know that
That's recent.
I recall the board you brought to me that you thought the letter that was going home from Cafe Services was a little harsh. When that
You
letter
did?
came out, yeah.
Yeah. That hasn't been discussed by the board.
I haven't seen it.
I thought it was brought to the board, yeah.
Well, if
No.
it was, I haven't seen it. Have you? Have you? Okay, so it wasn't brought to the board?
No, the one that we thought was a little bit harsh was one about this tuition, the residency
What was
forms.
that?
Yeah, not that.
I'll go back and take a look, but I thought we had discussed this, that the letter at home was, that Ruth sent home was a bit harsh.
I haven't even seen it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we could comment without seeing it. No?
Mistaken.
No.
Yeah,
And all
well,
this
maybe
was-
we should continue this in non-public.
Right.
Maybe as well. I'll get you during public comment. Ink bid? Where are we with that, Andrew, the ink bid?
The ink bid, what I'm doing right now, I got the bid wording put together. I'm getting information from Wakefield and Milton through Back Bay, what the actual specs are. Because I want to do the bid as a SAU-wide bid, not just for Wakefield, because we'll get a better pricing.
Don't we have a contract with Barry Technologies for that?
Through June 30th.
Right. So why are we are we looking at a renewal? Isn't it just to renew? Because you had the option to renew. So why are you changing the wording?
Because you want us to
What's the
bid out.
direction of the board?
We're out of it. So I don't recall we ever made any motion to go back into that contract,
We didn't, but we
We
made a
didn't.
motion to put it out to bid.
right?
The
Yes,
ink
I'm doing
out.
it
So
for
that's why you wouldn't
SAU-wide,
renew it,
with Milton
go
and
on to
Wakefield.
Exactly. So you're putting the whole thing out to bid.
Yeah, which,
Okay.
if Barry comes out ahead of the rest of the whoever bids, then that will be the SAU board's decision which company they want to go with.
No.
No, wait a minute. We didn't want to be part of that. That was the whole purpose of that addendum and getting out of it.
But you're not going with Barry. I'm doing a bid to all companies that we could find available that would cover both Milton and Wakefield, and then the SAU board would decide which is the best company to go with. Doesn't
I
necessarily.
think, hang on, Andrew, I think the question is whether or not the Wakefield board wants to have a separate bid for Wakefield, with the understanding that smaller volumes might affect pricing. That's what I'm hearing. I'm
we're also
seeing
paying this-
particularly from
me,
you
of
two,
course.
that's okay. You have a right. From you and Judy, what I'm seeing from body language is that we want a separate bid for Wakefield.
Right.
And not to do
Well,
an
because part of the
SAU.
contract is for services for both schools. They have 2 schools. They have 3 schools.
But whether
That's
it's
where
Wakefield or the union, the process for putting it out to bid would be the same.
Right, it's just what would be on the bid and what the specifications would be different. I
But
won't
we
use
wanted
word
to know the
vary.
price of just public school.
Have you notified Barry Technologies that you're not going to continue with them?
Well,
For the
Not yet.
SAU in Milton?
Not yet, because we haven't decided whether
Because you
We're
have a
not gonna do
deadline
that.
for
But
doing
there's a
that.
deadline, isn't there?
I have right now, Back Bay is checking into it for me, what we have to do with Barry.
Well, let's check into it ourselves.
Yeah, because there was a deadline that you had, and
That's
I
right.
think it's already passed.
And it was within 90 days, and it was, and if it wasn't renewed, well, you'd have to prove, it would have to be by full, you would have to prove that you were unable to make the payment. And that's the only way to get out of it, which is why I had requested that addendum to remove us from that contract because of all the strings attached to it.
The concern I had with that contract was that they would replace our existing equipment with new equipment should it fail. And my question was, okay, so who does the new equipment belong to? They're going to take our equipment and replace it with something of theirs, and then if we were to cancel their contract in the future, are they going to come in and take all their equipment out and we have nothing? But they've also taken our old stuff too.
But they were also making decisions as to when we received ink, what kind of ink, because it was all computerized. And this is something, after speaking to the teachers here, that was not necessary. We're getting ink that we didn't use or need, and we weren't using the volume that the other schools were using, that Milton was using. And so we're paying for something, even though you get a better price, because of the SAU.
I think we've had this discussion.
Right.
I think the question that I have for the board is, do you want to have a separate Wakefield bid?
Yeah, that's what we asked for.
Well,
Yeah,
that was,
I would prefer to, that's my opinion, but we can take a vote. We need a motion and a...
let's get clarity on that, so that what we're bidding is what you want to have bid.
I'll make the motion that we get a bid on a separate contract for the Paul School only for services for ink as well as for our printers.
I'll second it.
Whether we go alone in Wakefield or whether we go with the union, our portion of it would certainly be spelled out. It wouldn't be one big blanket figure.
But it's the wording in it.
It's the wording.
About
There was-
servicing, whether we need it or not,
Right,
it's about that.
right, but if they put it out to bid to other companies, you may not, you're not gonna have that same wording.
It would be a whole new contract,
Right.
Mhm.
and you could certainly stipulate what you wanted in it and wanted out of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you put it out to bid, you can still save money without the language.
Well, we can put it out to bid ourselves. I'm not saying not put it out to bid. Put it out to bid, but put it out for us to bid.
Right, but you can get a deeper discount if volume. But but you're
can
getting
also
it.
get-
You can if we
You can
use
also
it.
get in deeper,
But we're
too.
also getting services that we don't really want and we're still paying for.
Well, if
I'm
you're
not
just looking
talking
for
about the
ink,
very contract.
Right.
if you're just looking for ink, there's no need to go out and bid, because we have SCS that we use, and you're not gonna get anybody cheaper than them to get your ink cartridges.
Because they bid themselves.
They do the bidding, right, they go through their own bidding process, that's why we use them for all of our office supplies.
So I guess then why did we become part of Barry? So that answers the question right there. If we
Well,
already
because
have a
Barry
supplier.
is not just for ink cartridges, they also, like Judy was saying, they've serviced the actual printers.
Printers.
But we looked at the prices and it was more than the printer was even worth.
Yeah, that's what was concerning me, the fact that they took what
Could've
we
replaced
had
it.
and replaced it, so if we cancel the contract with them, then they come in and take everything. That was one issue we had, plus the cost that they were charging us for, we could have gone and bought a brand new printer.
So if you don't want to have a service like that, we'll just leave all, like we were doing last year, or we're doing now. You buy your printer cartridges through either SCS or the other company you're using. If we compare the price, whichever one is cheaper is who we buy it for.
Well, it's over $3,000, then
Then
yes,
it
to
has to
go
go
out to
up to
bid.
bid.
And it is over $3,000.
But it's not $3,000 for one ink cartridge. Why aren't we
No,
bidding
the
for,
order is $3,000, is more than $3,000.
not at one time? It's throughout the whole
Well,
year.
I saw one here one time that was $8,000 or $9,000.
Annual expenditure.
But we have SCS that's already gone out and did the bidding for the ink cartridges, and they're getting it at the lowest price. Why should we duplicate the work?
Then why are we buying it from a different company?
Because it's not just for ink cartridges, it was for the servicing of the printers as well. SES doesn't do that because they're just a supply company, office supplies. If you're just looking for ink cartridges, we already have that in place with the SES company.
I'll just stick with what we have, and as far as the service.
Stick with SES.
Right, exactly, and just stay out of the Berry, and if we need to repair the printers, then we repair them.
It's cheaper to buy a new
It's cheaper to
printer
buy
than
new,
it is
that's
to
what we
have
looked
someone
at.
come repair it.
It was gonna cost us more to repair them.
That's why most companies that handle printers will just replace them because it's cheaper than repairing them.
So we can-
90% of the time, the ink cartridges cost more than the
Right.
machine itself.
Right, but if they come in and they take what we had, all right, we have a printer, and something's wrong with it, and they come in and we own this printer, and they come in and they say, oh, under our contract, we'll just replace that with ours, okay? And they take ours and they put theirs in. 2 years from now, they come back and we cancel the contract with them. They come in and they take all their stuff with them that they've replaced. So we have nothing in the building. Now we've got to go out and buy them. So why don't we just buy them to begin with when it's time to replace them instead of trying to repair them?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're not in a contract with anybody to do that.
Right, so let's just stay the way
just
we are.
continue the way we are. We're-
Right.
We go through SES and get, if it's cheaper than the company that the school
Right.
has, then we buy it through SES. If the other company's cheaper, we buy it from them. Because you're only talking about ink cartridges.
Right, and that's what I said, what I wanted to do is get out of that
Right.
service
So
part of it.
We can defeat the motion and move on.
Mhm. You just want to withdraw it?
I'll withdraw the
I'll
motion.
withdraw the second. Okay, social studies order update, we already touched on that. Mary's supposed to be meeting.
Well, they're meeting about other things, but we've already placed the order for those social, we reported at the last board meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's all taken care of.
Yeah.
Teacher's room, have you put that on
They
there?
haven't done anything with it, so I
Been
guess
done.
check with Jerry, because the plumbing is supposed to be capped
no,
off
we-
too.
Yeah, we didn't, I don't know if they did anything with it over vacation.
No, they
More
didn't.
focused
No,
on
I
security,
checked.
so I don't think they did anything in there.
Do we know when they're gonna cap off the plumbing so we can?
I guess, well, I'm not quite sure if they've got that plan yet
Okay.
for a date. Yeah, I know that we're looking at the next year, doing anything would be April.
Okay.
So,
Vending machine?
as soon as they come back in, the machine goes out.
Area agreement meeting?
The meeting request went in some time ago, and we have not had a response. So we will send a follow-up.
Yeah, we should probably get on that, so we can-
Yeah.
especially where we've gone on all these tours, we need to make some decisions.
Yep. Well, the decision, as you know, takes years. You know, getting out of an area agreement takes years. It has to go to the state board. I mean, it's a long process.
Right, but we weren't talking about getting out of it at this point, we were talking about altering it.
Yeah, altering it requires a number of steps. Maybe what I should do, because I know I've talked through the steps before, is why don't I put something in writing about what the steps are for changing an area agreement, and then when we do get that
We have a
meeting.
whole letter from Barbara Lohman about it.
Okay, that's right, that's
Yeah,
right.
she gave us the whole breakdown. You may want to dig that out and make sure the new members get copies of it.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, if either of those articles don't pass, you have to do all this work ahead of time, wait at least till March 12th.
Well, this doesn't have anything to do with that. This is the area
No,
agreement
this-
with Spalding. No,
Only
yeah,
with Spalding.
Right. When is our next area meeting with them? That should be in March or April.
I don't have it on my calendar. I don't know.
April, I'm thinking?
It's April, Judy.
I'm pretty sure it's April.
I will communicate and find out, because I don't have any information on it.
Maybe the board members need to communicate to the board members if we're not getting anywhere through administration.
Well, let me work with Mike first. before we,
Also, I think at that area meeting, the tuition residency form issue needs to be brought up.
Absolutely.
I mean, they used to participate in helping us get those before, so I don't see what the issue is of why they can't participate now.
But then again, if they don't want to get paid,
Well, that's their choice.
Yeah, but if it goes after April 1st, and then we end up paying, and then the student left in January, like Judy said,
you don't pay for students that you don't have evidence came from Wakefield. You might end up paying the full year for somebody who only attended half a year. But if you wait till after April 1st, you're not going to be paying for students that were never identified as Wakefield students in the first place. So it's, some of it goes either way.
right. But they do prorate it if they leave half year.
They prorate it prior to April 1.
and out of 59, I think that would work in our favor.
Exactly.
So if they don't want to get paid, then
Okay, Spalding tour.
I mean, we both, I mean, it went well. We toured the tech building and saw part of Spalding that I was never had seen, and they have a lot of stuff to offer. So I feel better now after seeing that, but I still like the idea of the students having the choice.
Absolutely.
Of to either go to Spalding or to Kingswood. And I think that's what we should move forward with in an area agreement meeting.
Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty comparable with Kingswood. They both offered quite a bit.
Yep.
I'd like to see us have the choice, because there's a lot of parents that work in Wolfboro. There's parents that work, Ossipee, Conway, north of here, that it would be more convenient for them. Wolfboro, where there's other parents that work in Rochester, Dover, Somersworth, Portsmouth, that it's more convenient to have their kids in the Rochester schools.
And it's a different atmosphere.
You might need some extra buses. Buses are going in two different directions.
It depends on how the area agreements are written. You don't have to provide high school transportation at all. So, it's. But yeah,
If we're going to increase the number, then that's something we should be providing. I don't think we should create a hardship for parents, and basically we're restricting where the students can go.
Well, that's what you do now. I mean, some students go.
But it's not as. But if we're going to increase it, though, if we're going to be able to increase the number of students going, and if we do see an increase, then maybe we should look into something.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't.
Right.
I'm just saying that you don't provide it now for those that make that choice, and you don't have to.
There's no room in Newt High School's
Yeah, there's
building. Is that ever an option?
We haven't been there. We haven't made an option. It hasn't been part of the tuition committee.
I believe we do have a couple of students anyways, or maybe even one that go to Newt.
I think there's one.
I think there's one.
Yeah.
I believe.
Are we going to put that in as part of our committee? Are we going to go check that out?
We have gone to where you wanted to go. If you would like to go to Newt, I'm very confident that I can arrange that.
No.
Is Newt certified?
I don't think they're currently, but that's not. I don't know how many of the others are either.
And that's not an option.
Do they compete for the students? Do the high schools try to get the students to go to their high school, with a better tuition level or anything like that?
They're the same right now.
So if there was a third player, it wouldn't be.
The Rochester contract demands a certain percentage of the students.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he's
90.
talking about different
90%. We can send 10% of each class to Kingswood.
Or any place
Yeah,
else.
They demand it?
It's part of the agreement.
But they figure out
It's a
their budget,
contract.
and they figure out their
We have a contract,
availability.
yeah, we can go 10%, but what we're looking at and what we're talking about is just seeing if maybe we can increase it a little, so to give more students an option.
Yeah.
The only thing, I would have the same objection to Newt that I had to Farmington, and that's that they don't have a voc school. And it doesn't make any sense to me to send kids to Farmington or to Newt for them to turn around and have to get on another bus if they take vote classes to go to Rochester or Wolfboro or Dover or Somersworth. I would prefer, if we're going to do anything, is that we stick with schools that have voc programs so that we can offer our kids.
And then we want to offer as much as we can. I think those are the best.
Well, the flip side of that argument, if you would, is you can have agreements with multiple schools. And if parents have students that don't want to go to the vote program, or they choose, if you had a parent that prefers Farmington or prefers Newt, then having an area agreement that makes that an option. I'm not sure why the board would want to tie a parent's hands if it's an option to make multiple schools available.
Well, not really tying them. We don't even have an agreement with Kingswood.
That's
right,
something else
but you're
that
talking
needs to
about
be.
developing an area agreement and which schools you would like to visit to see
Right.
about how you might make that available to Wakefield students.
I
So
think a school that's not accredited is even an option. I don't think we should even look at it. But, I mean, the other thing we need to look into is that we don't have an agreement with Kingswood.
True.
So it's,
We
you
need
know, the honor
something in
system, and I
think
think
from
we
them
need to
as
have
well,
a
too.
contract with them. I
Well,
think
you
that
can-
needs to change this year.
that can't change without Rochester changing. Your contractual agreement is with Rochester.
But it allows us to have 10% of the students to go to any other school.
Right.
And when we send a child to Kingswood, and we have several, then we should have a written agreement with Kingswood and not an honor system. Because if anything comes back, we have nothing to fall back on. And that's what I found. There is nothing in writing with Kingswood whatsoever, except the fact that they allowed them to come to school there.
Well, I think that was part of the
Okay, then.
process when we were over there. They're looking forward to being able to take more Wakefield
Right.
students.
Mhm.
So I believe at that point, that is when you're going to put something in writing with Kingswood. But right now, we have to get the Rochester agreement changed to allow more students to be able to go elsewhere.
Right.
Well, it's
But
just
even
a
if
matter
we
of
don't,
negotiating
we
with
still have
Rochester
some-
a
we should have
different
something for the
percentage.
students that are already there. We have nothing. We still should have something.
All right, well, that's something that you're going to want to discuss with your next board as well.
Yeah, definitely.
No committee reports? Comments by the public? Sandy, you had a comment about food
It's
service.
just, I thought that Deb wouldn't be able to call people because she didn't work for like cafe services. Is that why?
Well, actually, because we evidently are responsible for all of the charges,
Okay,
and they're not responsible for any collection.
okay.
The responsibility to collect the money comes back on the school,
Okay.
and where she's a school employee, then she would be able to.
I didn't know if she'd have to be an employee of cafe services to do that or something, okay.
No, because I guess we're in
I
charge.
guess
of- We're in charge of collecting.
See, you should be in charge of everything, sorry.
Go ahead.
Bonnie Sear, can I just ask, have we ever had the 10% maximum to go to Kingswood in a class? So
In a class,
Um,
I would guess we might. I think we're getting close in
Yeah, I
one
think we
class
are
this year.
now.
Yeah.
We're getting close now.
We're getting closer every
Every
the last
year?
2 years, we've been getting much
More and
closer.
more
to
interest.
Okay, like more and more, like so.
that.
say you have
We don't
30
know, I don't know how many of the kids actually end up going there. I know that there's been more than 10% that we've got letters for, but I don't know how many end up going there.
Have we ever had to turn a student down that wanted to apply there?
We have
It's
this
not
year,
up
so-
to us to turn
We
them
don't
down,
turn
it's
them.
up to Kingswood.
Well, no,
Because of the quota?
because of the quota, because I know that they all have to apply before April 1st, and they have to get accepted into the district. Have we ever had to say, I'm sorry, our quota was full?
Not this year.
Not
No,
this year.
I don't think we've ever had to do that, have we?
We have seen an increase, though, but the other thing I found that was, is that a lot of the parents weren't even aware they had a choice. A couple of students that I ran into said, you mean I could have gone to Kingswood? Absolutely.
I would say
And-
with high school students, I would think that every child leaving this building is
Should know.
it's very clear that they have,
Oh.
I mean, I have a junior, I have one that graduated 2 years ago, and I have a freshman. I mean, they knew when they were picking their classes,
Yeah.
because we went and toured Kingswood, we went and toured Brewster. They knew that those were options for them for their high school career, but the parents have to take initiative, or the kids have to take initiative.
Okay.
But the guidance counselors and the administration in this building made it very clear that the children had options, and the teachers also, because they also had acquaintances that were going.
I just wonder if they weren't taking the information home.
Well, no, I think if you grew up in the society, you knew that you had the right, you knew that there was no transportation, which can actually, you know that you can go right over the Brookfield line and catch the bus. But if you live in East Wakefield and you work in Conway, driving down, I mean, it might be that you have to go to an Effingham.
They go right by. Province Lake.
And I think that that's something that a parent would have to look into. But I do think that Paul's school does a very good job of making it known that kids do have choices, but they have to have the initiative to make those choices. And I don't remember ever having, like, seeing the numbers and seeing it be the max 10%. Maybe where it's a brand new facility and they are offering more, like I know that they have a diesel mechanic portion of their tech now that Spalding does not have. And that is one thing that, like, the boys that are, or anyone that's tech savvy is looking for that, because that's going to give them that apprenticeship that they need. But
It was definitely impressive.
I think both buildings are.
Yeah, it was great. But Spalding also, we were pretty surprised at how much more they now offer also.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I had a school board member from Kingswood tell me they would take every single student we would send them.
Absolutely, and I've heard the same thing, and that's why.
We actually heard it right from the administration.
Yep.
That they'd be ready to take on all of us.
Now, I do have a question. Does the administration here, I know that you have step-up day to go to Spalding and you bring all of the 8th graders there. Do you also implement a step-up day to Kingswood to give them that interview?
No.
Maybe we should. Because if they have a great new art program, they have brand new texts, and Spalding offers the same, but if you show them that that's a choice, that might make a difference.
And we better work on that area agreement, because certainly don't want
to increase the numbers such that we'd have to.
Hate to pump them up and they can only send 4 kids, 5 kids over there.
Is that how big a class is?
Well, if
is
you
there
right now we
like
have 40.
30, or how many, what's in the 8th grade this year for, is there 64, so you can send?
No, it's like 45, so we can send, say, if you round it up, we can send 5 kids.
We can send 5
And so if we
kids.
bring over 45, I guess my concern would be bringing over a step-up day like Spalding.
Right.
Oh, I can tell you, I know we've received more than 5 letters
We
this
have
year.
already this year.
So that's up to
But from this
Kingswood who
class,
they accept.
we've received 5 letters, but I don't think.
Well,
from
no,
this class.
3 were continuing.
I don't think it was
In the
from this class.
in the
so.
minutes, I think that they were continuing students.
They were
I don't think
continuing.
that they were students that were initiating freshman year.
We've got a couple. We've got a few that were
One or
from this
two.
year. I don't think we've hit that number of even 4 yet, but we.
The others
might-
were continuing.
I can think of 2 anyway.
Okay, any other public?
2011, there were 11 students going to Kingswood. Total of 11.
That's
5
5%.
9th graders, 1 10th, 3 11th, and 2 12th.
It's 5%.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other, Jerry?
I just had a question. At the beginning of the meeting, when you were interviewing for your new school board member, you were discussing the fact that you can't be on the budget committee and the school board at the same time. And as far as I know, Ralph's still on the budget committee, and you swore him in as a school board member. I just wondered how that works.
He'll have to give his resignation to the town.
Will he have to be sworn in as a school board member after he's off the budget committee, or can you actually?
No, we swore him in.
Can you actually have someone on the school board and the budget committee at the same time, if it's a violation of law to have someone on the 2 boards?
If it is, I better resign right now from the budget committee, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, I think
Yeah,
you're on the budget
it's
committee and
a
you
violation.
get sworn in on the school board, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there is a conflict there. I know there can't be 2, I'm not sure how it goes, really. I know that if I'm on the budget committee, I shouldn't be on the school board unless I'm the school board's representative to
But
the
right now,
budget.
you're on the budget committee and you're on the school board. That's my question. I just don't know how that works.
I was
with the-
appointed to the school board 3 years ago, and I was a budget committee member. And I just gave my resignation to the budget committee afterwards, after I was
Date your
appointed.
resignation
I was just-
yesterday.
It was just, you were discussing policies and Steve was discussing RSAs and, you know, the law says you can't be on both boards and you swore him in, but I guess is it a Wakefield thing that's like, well, we'll swear you into the school board now and then when you get around to it, resign from the budget committee?
Well,
I sent my letter immediately the next day to the
Okay,
budget committee
Ralph,
chairman.
write it out.
I'll
Well,
follow.
that's fine, no, that's fine.
I should
Do what you
follow
want. I
Judy's
just-
lead on that.
I just don't understand how you have a school board.
Well, you're not
member-
going to resign from the budget committee before you have an interview to see if you're accepted as a school board
Well,
member.
why would you be sworn in on the school board and not wait until the next meeting until you've had a chance to resign from the budget committee?
I was surprised that I was getting sworn in tonight. I can
Well,
guarantee you
I
that.
just,
But how come it didn't come up before you got sworn in? Why didn't you ask before?
well, because the public comment is at the end.
But it's important, it's a law.
Well,
Well, no, actually, we had public comment in the beginning.
Went after the interview.
Yeah.
Well, no, we have people in town that pick up on things that, you know, procedural things that go wrong. Steve's up at the county building on minutes and right to know and a lot of things, and I think that, you know, I like Ralph and stuff. I mean, we've never really cut each other any slack and anything to do with that, but, you know, if you can't have a budget committee member and a school board member, I just don't understand how you swear a budget committee member in to be on your school board.
Well, technically, the budget committee's out of session right now.
That's right.
So he's not a member?
I am still a member, but I'll take care of that tomorrow, I promise.
Well, I mean, I just, you know, I mean.
No,
No,
I
it's
just-
a good point, but.
It is a good point.
It is.
I know they did the same thing to me. They interviewed me and swore me in the same night.
Well, I mean, and that would be fine with me. I mean, if it's a Wakefield thing and you want to do it that way, that's fine. I mean, if you don't want to make your minutes available when you're supposed to make them available and nobody says anything about it, it's fine. If you want to, you don't really have to follow any of the laws or rules or RSAs if you don't want to and nobody says anything about it. I mean, if you went in and robbed a bank and nobody said anything about it, I mean, it would not be a problem that you did that. If
We're
you
not making
choose
minutes
to,
available?
if you choose to ignore the
Oh,
law, that's your prerogative. But I just had a question about how you swear a budget committee member in to be on your school board. That's all.
His resignation is in progress.
Which is the opposite of
Well, that's
Congress.
fine. I don't know what the
Can
legal
you resign
position is on that, and I wouldn't,
Writing?
I wouldn't
resign
try
on
to make a
camera.
legal decision on it because I'm not a lawyer,
Just
but
give your resignation.
common sense says you can't hold the two positions. How do you hold the two positions?
Well, I'll declare my resignation now, but I think I have to formally put it in writing, don't I?
Ask.
And I believe as part of the interview, he said that he was aware that he couldn't be both.
That's
so.
fine. It was just a technical thing. You guys
It's
go
technical.
through. You guys go through and nitpick these little things and this little word and that little word and every little tiny detail, and then you swear a budget committee member in to be on the school board. And Liz says, well, he's intending to resign, and Judy says, well, they're not in session now, so apparently I'm not a budget committee member now because the budget committee, we're not in session now, or?
Okay, now we're just getting.
Well, I'm just making my point.
I know you're making your point,
Okay.
Jerry.
Thank you.
We'll take care of it, thank you. We'll check it out tomorrow, Jay.
Yeah.
I will submit that resignation tomorrow to the town.
That's fine, that's fine.
You know I'd be in your shoes doing the
You
same
would do the
thing.
same thing.
Any other
Over
public
here.
comment? Motion to enter non-public session?
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
aye.
Oh, Ms. Cedar, aye.
Do you declare what it's for? No?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to go in without knowing what we're going for.
Well, you just.
That's all the hours.
We have.
91A. Would it be A?
Nominations is hiring.
Point of order.
Yes.
If it's possible that he's not a member right now, should he be in the non-public?
Probably not.
No.
Just
If we're
thought
gonna
I'd
question-
throw it out there. Everything else.
I was gonna bring that up, but I was just waiting until we
Does that copy
actually
all
got
of it?
into
Yeah.
non-public.
No, I wish it, at this point.
I think Priscilla has more
Can I
public
just
comment.
tell you that currently, this year, there are 8 students in Governor Wentworth.
That's not working, Jerry?
8 current. That's freshmen through seniors.
Yes, total of 8. Last year, there were 11, this year there's 8.
140.
Thank you.
One thousand.